It was a sunny morning when I saw the pictures on my mom's social media. The whole family was smiling near the beach, standing close together, the ocean behind them. Everyone was there, my cousins, my aunts, even my little niece who could barely walk. But I was not there. I kept looking at the photos again and again, hoping maybe I was in one of them by mistake. Maybe they had just forgotten to tag me. But no, I wasn't there at all. I felt something cold and heavy in my chest, like a rock sitting on my heart. Later that evening, my dad came home. I had so many questions in my head, but only one came out. Why didn't anyone tell me about the vacation? He didn't look surprised. He didn't even try to come up with an excuse. He just looked at me with tired eyes and said, "They didn't want you there." At first, I thought I had heard him wrong. Maybe he meant something else. Maybe it was a joke, a bad one. But he said it again, a little softer this time, like he was trying not to hurt me more. "They didn't want you there." And that was it. No more words, no hug, no reason. I stood there, frozen. My mind was full of noise. What had I done wrong? Was I not part of the family anymore? Was I too boring, too different, too quiet? I thought of every moment in the past where I might have upset someone, but nothing made sense. I'd always been polite. I'd always tried to help. I'd always tried to belong. But maybe trying wasn't enough. Maybe they had already made up their minds a long time ago, and this was just the final proof that I didn't fit in. Then my dad said something else. "I send you some money next week. Go get something for yourself." It felt strange, cold, like he was trying to pay me so I wouldn't feel too sad. But money can't replace being part of something. Money can't fill the empty seat at the dinner table. Money can't make you feel like family when they've decided you don't belong. I didn't want anything from him. I didn't want his money. I just wanted to feel like someone cared if I was there or not. But now I knew the answer. That night, I lay in bed with the lights off, staring at the ceiling. The pictures kept flashing in my mind. The happy faces, the sunny sky, the laughter I could almost hear, but none of it was mine. I was not in that story. I was not in that memory. I was just outside, looking in through a glass window. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My heart felt too full and too empty at the same time. I just kept hearing his words over and over again. They didn't want you there. And that was when I knew this wasn't just about a vacation. This was about something deeper. The next morning, I tried to act like everything was normal. I made breakfast, sat at the table, and scrolled through my phone like I didn't care. But inside, I was trying to stay strong while my heart was slowly breaking. Every bite of food felt like chewing paper. My dad sat across from me, drinking his coffee and reading the news as if nothing had happened. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He didn't say sorry. It was like his words from the night before had vanished, like they didn't cut me deep. But I remembered them. I remembered every word, and they stayed with me like a shadow. Later that day, my cousin sent me a message. It was short, just one line. "Hope you're doing okay." That was all. No explanation, no invite, no sorry. I stared at it for a long time. I typed thanks and then erased it. I typed "why didn't you tell me" and erased that too. In the end, I said nothing. I didn't know how to reply without sounding angry or broken, because deep down, I didn't want to beg for a reason. I didn't want to ask for a seat at a table where no one saved a chair for me. I wanted someone to want me there on their own. But no one did. I kept thinking maybe my mom would call. Maybe she'd feel bad and try to explain. She always used to be the one who said, "We're family, we stick together." But this time she was quiet too. I saw her post another photo that evening, holding a drink and smiling in the sunlight. The caption read, "So much joy, just what we needed." It felt like a message to me, like she was saying joy came when I wasn't around. I stared at the photo for a long time. I didn't even feel angry, just numb, like I didn't matter enough to even be missed. I tried to stay busy, cleaned my room, did laundry, watched videos, but every little thing reminded me that I was alone. Every quiet moment felt louder than usual. Even the sound of the clock ticking made me feel small. I thought about calling a friend, but then I stopped. What would I say? That my own family didn't want me on a trip? That they didn't even bother to lie about it? I didn't want pity. I just wanted someone, anyone to say, "You matter." But the silence kept growing, filling every space around me until it was hard to breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I got up and walked outside. The street was empty and cool. I looked up at the sky and saw the stars. They looked peaceful, far away, like they didn't care about the things happening down here. I took a deep breath and thought about who I was. Not who they saw me as, but who I really was. Maybe I wasn't the loudest or the funniest. Maybe I wasn't the favorite, but I'd always loved them. I'd always shown up. And maybe, just maybe, it was time I started showing up for myself. The days that followed were slow and quiet. I stopped checking my phone for updates from them. I didn't want to see more photos or read more cheerful captions that made me feel like a stranger to my own family. I deleted the app for a while and turned off my notifications. It was my way of protecting myself, even if it felt like I was cutting off a part of my life. But the truth was, that part of my life had already let me go. I was just late to realize it. I needed time to heal, even if no one else noticed I was hurt. I started going for walks every morning. The air felt fresh, and for a little while I could clear my head. I saw old couples walking hand in hand, kids riding bikes, people jogging with music in their ears. None of them knew what I was carrying inside, but somehow that made it easier. I didn't have to pretend with strangers. I didn't have to smile when I felt like crying. I could just be. And in those quiet steps, I started finding small pieces of peace. Not happiness, not yet, but something softer, something calm. One day during a walk, I passed a small cafe I'd never noticed before. It had warm lights and a chalkboard sign that read, "Try something new today." I stood there for a moment, then walked inside. The place smelled like fresh bread and cinnamon. I ordered tea and sat by the window. No one was rushing me. No one was judging me. I watched people walk by, living their lives. And I realized something. Maybe I didn't have to wait for others to include me. Maybe I could start building a life where I included myself. I went back to that cafe the next day, and the next. It became a small part of my routine, something to look forward to. The girl at the counter started remembering my order. She smiled when she saw me. "The usual?" she asked. And for the first time in days, I smiled back and said, "Yes, please." It was such a small thing, but it felt big. Someone saw me. Someone remembered me. Someone cared enough to notice. I wasn't invisible here. I wasn't left out. I was just there. And that was enough, for now. That night, I didn't feel as heavy. I still thought about the vacation, about the words my dad had said, but I also thought about the warm tea, the soft light, the kind smile from the cafe. It didn't fix everything, but it reminded me that the world was bigger than one group of people. It reminded me that kindness could come from anywhere, even from strangers. And slowly, I began to understand something very important. Maybe I'd been looking in the wrong place for love and belonging. Maybe it was time to look somewhere new. A few more days passed, and I didn't hear a word from anyone in the family. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. It was like I had simply disappeared from their world and no one noticed. A part of me kept hoping for something, a small text, even an accident where they reached out. But there was nothing, and that silence said more than any message ever could. It told me where I stood. It told me how easy it was for them to enjoy life without me in it. That truth was hard to carry, but I kept walking forward, one small step at a time. At the cafe, I started bringing a notebook. I didn't plan to write much at first, just little thoughts, things I didn't want to keep trapped in my head anymore. But soon the pages started to fill. I wrote about the pain, the confusion, and the loneliness, but I also wrote about small joys, like the way the light fell across the table in the morning, or how the tea warmed my hands. Writing helped me speak when I had no one to talk to. The notebook became a friend, one that listened without judgment, one that let me feel everything without saying it was too much. One afternoon while I was writing, the cafe girl asked what I was always working on. I paused for a moment and said, "Just my thoughts." She smiled and said, "That's beautiful. Keep going." It wasn't much, but it made my chest feel a little lighter. She didn't know my story, but her kindness touched something in me. It reminded me that I didn't need grand gestures. Sometimes just being seen, even in a small way, is enough to keep a person going. That one sentence stayed with me for the rest of the day. Keep going. I told myself the same thing later that night. Back at home, things were still cold and quiet. My dad didn't ask me how I was doing. We passed each other like strangers in the same house. I